Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Welcome back, everyone. Ron is here. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day to wear a blue shirt instead of a black shirt every now and then. I want to thank the 96 of you out of the 241,000 who got a notification from YouTube. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to the beginning of the live stream. And to everyone out there on the replay crew, welcome as well. Lord knows when you'll find out there's a video happening. YouTube's getting wild, guys. By the way, if it looks like my eyes are unusually red, I spent a good portion of yesterday getting seawater just fire hosed directly into my eyes and sinuses while attempting to do water sports for a big guy who doesn't have a very good sense of balance and never does water sports. It was as fun as water sports are supposed to be. Okay, Scientology criminals, you done messed up. It is time for war. And it has been for quite a while, but I feel like it's time to focus a little bit on the war. There's a certain breed of Scientology criminal who has sort of sailed off into the sunset and decided just to lay low, play nice, try to stay in David Miscavige's good graces, not cooperate with law enforcement, not do everything they can to expose and provide testimony and evidence and cooperation to law enforcement's and plaintiffs' teams in various lawsuits about the very real Scientology crimes that can be prosecuted and that would have a big impact in getting Scientology's tax-exempt status revoked. It's a certain type of Scientology criminal. These people are mostly former staff members, former Sea Org members. And I just feel like it's time. I mean, we've done this in the past. I've done videos about people like Angie Blankenship, one of the most senior Scientology executives, who knows about more crimes than probably even Mike Rinder, or at least a lot more recent crimes than Mike Rinder. And we're not done with Angie Blankenship, but I figured now that there's so many more voices coming out on YouTube, former Scientologists, former staff members, former Sea Org members, naming names and telling stories, it's time to focus on this particular type of criminal until they realize it's easier to cooperate than it is to keep your mouth shut. And, today we're talking about Brandon Faust. I know some of you saw the interview that I did last week with Jenny Strom in the Sea Org. Many of you would have known her as Jenny Reese. She was married to John O'Reese. Me and Jenny did an interview. In Jenny's time in the Sea Org, she worked over the recruitment area for a high-level Scientology organization called Bridge Publications. One of her juniors was Brandon Faust. Brandon Faust was one of the most notorious Scientology recruiters in Los Angeles for a very, very long time. This is a guy who, when he was told he was no longer allowed to recruit girls for the Sea Org who were 13 years old or younger, threw an absolute fit. So when I talk about Brandon Faust, I'm not just talking about someone who knows of the type of crimes and SA and trafficking that has occurred. I'm talking about someone who was actively an active participant in it. And this is the type of people we really do need to hear from more. Scientology staff members and Sea Org members who were ethics officers, who were recruiters, who were registrars, who were fundraisers, and who worked for the Office of Special Affairs. These are the people who were most active in and most complicit with actual crimes. I've always asked myself why we don't hear from more of these people. It seems rhetorical, right? Because now it sounds like, well, obviously you're not going to hear from them because they don't want to incriminate themselves. Guys, there's... And I say this as just a normie, not a professional in the field. There's no risk of self-incrimination. The FBI is not looking to incriminate prosecute former Sea Org members who are trying to contribute to investigations. Now, I realize it's not my place to say that, so just take it with a grain of salt. Just say what Aaron says on this subject means nothing. I'm just giving you my opinion why I would say such a thing. I say this with some informed knowledge as well. The FBI is not looking to prosecute individual former Sea Org members who are cooperating. Now, so someone like a Brendan Faust, let's say someone like a Brendan Faust wanted to come forward. Should he have representation? Should he ask for some sort of an immunity deal? Of course he should. That's just proper procedure. But you know what? There's a lot of people who have come forward and spilled the beans and not just talked about what L. Ron Hubbard said you should do, or what policy says you should do, or what the Office of Special Affairs does, but what they did with their own two hands. There are people who have come out and done those and said those things and admitted to those things. And guess what? Those people never ended up in jail. Those people never ended up being sued or prosecuted for any of the things they admitted to. We have more attention and eyeballs on these issues today than ever before. We have more interest from local and federal law enforcement today than ever before. There are more lawsuits against Scientology and David Miscavige today than ever before. There are more people speaking out today than ever before. We need these people, more of these people, who were personally involved in actual crimes to stop hiding, stop just being quiet and being under the radar and living your life, the Angie Blankenships and the Brandon Fausts of the world. And you better believe, as I add more names to my list, I'm going to keep doing videos. And I'm not just going to do one video about each person. I'm going to do video after video after video after video. Because these people's silence is what allows the crimes that are being committed in Scientology to continue. I'm talking about, when I talk about, fundraisers and registrars, I'm talking about people who've been involved in committing hundreds of millions of dollars of identity theft, credit card fraud, bank fraud, loan fraud, all this stuff. This is the kind of stuff Scientology's tax-exempt status could legitimately be revoked for. These people need to be cooperating. And if you're not cooperating, you're going to be a star of SPTV. If you are cooperating, we'll leave you alone. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Oh, by the way, an example of one such person who, before he died, very publicly confessed to the kind of crimes that he helped commit was a gentleman named Levy. Was a very high-level fundraiser, registrar for Scientology, particularly in Clearwater at the Flagland base, and for many, 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 many years. And back in 2009, when the Tampa Bay Times did a series of articles called The Truth Rundown, it was either during that time or just after that time, did a series of an unbelievable interviews talking about how fundraising actually occurs, how the registration actually occurs, the tactics that they use. And it was incredible. Most people didn't know at the time that he was dying of cancer. And I do think that's part of what contributed to him saying, look, I'm not taking these secrets to my grave. I'm going to do everything I can to help prevent this type of systemic institutional abuse from being allowed to continue. And I'm hard pressed to think of, I can think of 2 or 3 names of people who've come out and had that type of disclosure. I'm not going to name those names for right now. I'm going to selectively discuss these things for the time being. Okay, so the inspiration for this particular video came to me because someone sent me a video of Brandon Faust in his current life and what he's doing. And I was reminded that Brandon Faust lives right here in Clearwater, Florida, where I live. And he's just gone on with his life. And he's still a Scientologist in good standing. He's still in the Scientology ecosystem. He's got connections that we're going to discuss here in a moment. Connections to the Danny Masterson family, connections to the Maurer family. Mike Maurer, of course, is the patriarch of the Maurer family. He's, of course, involved in the cover-up of the child sex crimes of his son, Johnny Maurer. His son, Johnny Maurer, is a Scientologist, child sex offender, meaning a sex offender of children. Scientology kids and non-Scientology kids. When his crimes were discovered by Scientology, he was a staff member in Los Angeles. They said, you know what we should do with someone who has a history of sexually abusing dozens of children? Send him to Clearwater. Send him to the city that probably has more Scientology children per capita than any other city in the world. Brendan Faust is connected to all these people. Okay, so one step at a time here. Here's the video I was sent that just served as the inspiration for today's video. Let's take a look at this.
There's definitely a situation. I think that Tampa is actually one of the hottest spots in the U.S. as far as mold is concerned. The number of homes that I'm seeing it in, obviously I'm going to homes where people are calling me out for a reason.
Yeah.
But it's pretty much 90% of the time I'm finding a situation. And a lot of the times the person thinks there might be something, they're not seeing the actual issue. And just by knowing where to look, I'm able to locate it pretty rapidly. Of course, we call out an independent inspector just to verify and make sure that's what it is. But that's part of our free environmental consultation. We'll take a look and see where we usually find it. And I think that one of the key things that's important to know, especially when it comes to mold, is where there's water, there's life, right? And that's something that, we're known for here in Tampa Bay. I mean, it's the lightning capital of the world,
Yeah.
right? There's a reason for that. So because of the storms and because of all the water that we're actually dealing with in the heat and the humidity, we're going to be creating a situation of a lot of water in the homes. And if it's not directed in the right way, it
Yeah.
can very easily become a situation.
Okay. That's Brandon Faust. Brandon Faust used to be one of Scientology's superstar recruiters, helping to clear the planet. Now he's helping to clear Tampa Bay of mold. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but let's take a look. This is Brandon Faust's company. It's called Water and Mold Remediation, based in Clearwater. I mean, it's honest work. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not bashing the work. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, hey, Brandon, if you have a mold remediation company, I'm going to guess that your business is not entirely dependent on the Scientology community. It's not the kind of business that you have to just rely on Scientology clients. If you're doing a good job, you can easily get tons of business from the non-Scientology world. And I mention this because, to me, one of the biggest, I guess in my mind, one of the most valid arguments that somebody can come up with for one of the two most valid arguments for why they continue to keep their mouth shut and be silent about what they know and continue to exist within the Scientology ecosystem, like I did for many, many years before I was officially declared, is family and money. And if I'm someone who, when I was in the Scientology ecosystem, thought that I would not be able to earn a good living outside of the Scientology ecosystem, that is the primary thing that was keeping me in. And of course, there was the familial disconnection aspect, particularly with respect to my wife's family at the time. And so, and I have said that when me and my family were going through all the soul crushing and destroying disconnection from everyone me and my wife had known at the time, that I've said that if at the same time we were going through like really stressful money problems, I couldn't even imagine how much worse it would have all been, how much more soul destroying and crushing it would have been if you compound just the human tragedy of it with financial tragedy as well. And so I point out that our boy Brandon has a business that should be able to flourish even outside of the Scientology ecosystem. Now, not only was Brandon one of the top recruiters for Scientology, but his mother, Sherry Faust, ran one of these horribly abusive camps for Scientology children called the Mace Kingsley Ranch. Sherry Faust was the one, and there's been many iterations of these ranches in different locations at different times and in different states, but Sherry Faust ran one of those ranches, and Brandon would use one of those ranches as a recruiting pool for Scientology. I don't know how successful he was in recruiting from that ranch specifically, but you better believe he tried. And I know because I've spoken with people he specifically tried to recruit there who was at the ranch with Brandon's mother, Sherry, and his brothers. So that's who we're talking about when we're talking about Brandon Faust. Now, what's interesting is that the Scientology world is, of course, not short on its own drama. There is another mold remediation company based out of Clearwater, Florida. No coincidence. This other company is called Mold Zero. You're like, God, I didn't realize Scientologists were so passionate about the mold business. Well, this Mold Zero company is owned and operated by none other than Danny Masterson's stepfather. Let's meet the owner. Wait, let's go meet the owner. This, ladies and gentlemen, is Rusty Tweed, the owner and founder of Mold Zero. Rusty Tweed is originally from Waterloo. Couldn't care less. Okay. Rusty Tweed wants you to know about his history with mold and its effects. Rusty has been Danny Masterson's stepfather for most of Danny Masterson's life. Now, Brandon Faust went to work for Rusty Tweed. They had some sort of a fallout, and I'm told by insiders familiar with the matter that Brandon stole from Rusty Tweed's company, including stealing a company van, and went off and branched out and did his own thing. I can only imagine what a kerfuffle that occurred. That caused in Scientology, because I got to tell you, there's some people who are not looked upon very kindly in Scientology. One of those people is former Sea Org members. Brandon Faust is a former Sea Org member. The other example of someone who's not looked upon kindly very much is felons. I don't want to overspeak. Rusty Tweed is one of the Scientologists who was guilty of perpetrating a multi-million-dollar Ponzi scheme. Whether he was actually prosecuted for that, I don't actually recall at this moment. All I know, so I don't want to call him a felon if he's not a felon. But what I do remember is that there was an old article on the Underground Bunker specifically about Rusty Tweed and the Ponzi scheme that he had been involved in. Let's just take a look at this briefly. This was only 4 years ago, actually. Which of the Masterson brothers profited from their Scientology stepdad's Ponzi scheme? He's talking here. So that's Rusty Tweed in the middle. Rusty Tweed did come to court on several occasions to support Danny Masterson during the second trial. So I did see him several times. That's Carol Masterson on the left and Chris Masterson on the right. Okay, so there was a few excerpts of here that I just wanted to highlight because it mentions the Ponzi scheme. I mean, I guess the details of it. I'll link to this blog post in the description down below. But in this article, it mentions Mike Maurer. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, guys, because all of these Scientology criminals are associated with each other. I mean, it's one of the examples it's one of the things that serves as an example of how small Scientology really is. For you guys who watch all of these videos of all former Scientologists, SPTV, you notice we all know each other. It's not because a small group of Scientologists have gotten together and conspired to do videos on YouTube. It's because all Scientologists in the world are separated by 1 degree of separation. There's only about 20, 25, at the most 30,000 Scientologists in the entire world. All of the Scientology criminals are practically connected to each other. So in looking at how this Ponzi scheme occurred, how it fell apart, who benefited, who got screwed, I'll just show you this paragraph. In March 2011, Tweed made matters worse by carving out, Rusty Tweed, Danny Masterson's stepdad, by carving out $200,000 of the $924,000 he'd managed to get back from Richardson and loaned it to a Clearwater software business, Teamwork Retail, run by a Scientologist friend of his, Michael Maurer. The loan was supposed to generate 18% interest when it came due in September 2011, but no interest was paid, and neither was the loan. Teamwork Retail declared bankruptcy in 2013. So because Mike Maurer and his company defaulted on the giant loan that Rusty Tweed had loaned him from his Ponzi scheme funds, Johnny Maurer's downfall contributed to Rusty Tweed's downfall. Again, Johnny Maurer is the local Scientologist, long-term Scientologist. He was on the Apollo with L. Ron Hubbard at the same time L. Ron Hubbard was. He's the one who has the Scientology pedophile son that's being protected here in Clearwater, Florida. So I just want to show you, you've got Brandon Faust working with Rusty Tweed, who works with Michael Maurer. These guys all know each other, okay? All right, so let's see. What else did I want to say about this? Yeah, just to wrap up. If you are a former Scientology ethics officer, recruiter, registrar, fundraiser, or former staff member of the Office of Special Affairs, and you are one of these people who has left staff and left the Sea Org and just decided to remain silent and not do anything and not say what you know, even if you're someone who, like Angie Blankenship, has actually left Scientology and decided to remain silent, consider yourself a future star of SPTV and my and our many, many videos. Because if you are not cooperating with local law enforcement, if you are not cooperating with the FBI, if you are not cooperating with lawsuits, if you are not emailing the many members of SPTV and saying, hey, look, I'm under the radar. I'm out of Scientology. I signed this agreement. I signed that agreement. I'm afraid to just publicly speak out, but I sure would love to get a deposition for one of these lawsuits, because that's all you would have to do to get out of being a star of SPTV videos. Let it be known secretly and privately that you would relish the opportunity to be subpoenaed and deposed in any of these lawsuits or criminal actions. And we can make the appropriate introductions. It's time to ratchet up the pressure on the people who actually have the knowledge of the crimes and are being silent, because it's just not acceptable. Not in this day and age, not at this stage of the game. Is Scientology failing just on its own, under its own weight and leadership? Yes. Do we need to speed that process along in any way that we can? Also, yes. Do we need to get Scientology's tax-exempt status revoked? Absolutely. Criminal prosecutions and convictions will help with that. And guys, this is what we're here for. We're here to be David Miscavige's worst nightmare. We do that by bringing out the actual crimes, the actual evidence, the people who actually did it with their own two hands. Not everybody who was in Scientology participated to the same degree in activities that could be described as actual crimes. I repeat, ethics officers, recruiters, registrars, fundraisers, and members of the Office of Special Affairs. That's all I have for right now on this subject. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Much more to come later today and later this week. Thank you to everyone who watches until the very end, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe